Okay, so if you are like most creatives, then you're probably like me, who is someone who procrastinates to the last minute. And someone said something, I think I read it somewhere, that it's something inherent in creatives that you tend to wait until the last minute to do your homework, basically, or do what you're supposed to do. You're thinking about it the whole time, and for me, it was kind of the same thing. I received everything from my team. I reviewed it, I had a couple of updates, but really I crammed in all of my work in producing my presentation deck, and I finished it literally the night before my presentation with the client. And so the night before the presentation, I just wanted to make sure that my slide deck was ready. We had already ordered all the refreshments and the room was ready, so I got there a little bit early. We set everything up, and everybody started piling in, and lo and behold, it was the same exact 15 people that were in the initial discovery session. And the first half of that meeting, and by the way, the follow-up meeting is going to be a lot shorter. So discovery initially is about a half day, usually 4 hours. The follow-up should be about an hour, hour and a half max, and that depends on feedback and questions. And so the first half of the meeting, and not even first half, the first 20, 30 minutes, I just reviewed all of the notes. So guys, just remember to recap 2 weeks ago. This is everything we discussed. Here's all the questions that we asked, and here were your guys' answers. And here is our feedback. And this is how we translate that into messaging. And I started with messaging, just to make sure that we were on the same page messaging wise. Then we went to design, and I showed them the 3 different designs that we came up with. Then I showed them how that design could be applied to their website, and we went through a couple of different examples of what their website could look like. And then we went through the marketing strategy, and I left it open for any kind of feedback. And throughout it, they were asking questions. It was a really easy decision. Like, usually the decision is made afterwards. They'll go through it, they'll give me feedback. I typically account for a round of refinement of that document after that session. And refinement means like, hey, if we really like this particular logo, but I want to see this in a different color, or I want to maybe use a different type setting for the logo. Then that's counted as a round of refinement. So it was a pretty much general consensus that everybody wanted to land on the medium design concept. And so we went from there, and I said, okay, don't give me all of your answers yet. Let me hand this to you. I don't send anything over to the client until we have that meeting. I don't want to send them the strategy through email until I have a chance to review it with them first, showing them the logic that led to our design decisions and our messaging decisions, and I want to get their feedback. And then after that meeting, I wrapped everything up, sent them the PDFs, and I said, let's schedule a follow-up in a few days. And so we scheduled our follow-up call. So they had basically 3 days to review all of the documents, to kind of sit on it, think about it, and give me their final feedback. Again, I was sourcing feedback right then and there in that meeting, but I gave them 3 days to kind of think about it and give me their final round of feedback. They did, and then they said, okay, we want to for sure go with the mild version, concept 1, and we want to now present this to our board. And so I thought I was going to be done by presenting it to this initial group of 15 people, but there was only a couple of board members there, and they had their monthly board meeting coming up, and so they said, hey, we want to make sure that we get approval on this. And so that was like the final test, is okay, so now we've done discovery, we've done our follow-up, we've selected the logo, and they said we don't want to show any of the other stuff, we just want to show the design that we've landed on and we've refined, and we want you to present that to the board. And so I had to create a third presentation, which was specifically for that board meeting. It was kind of interesting that, when I went to this board meeting, I went in, there was probably about 12 or so people in this meeting, and I walked in at the time they told me to, which I think was probably about 30 minutes to an hour after they had already started. So they'd already talked about whatever items were on their agenda, and one of the items on the agenda was talking about the rebrand. And so it was interesting. I'm sitting there listening to, you know, bylaws and different things. I feel like I'm kind of out of place. And then they said, okay, now Sean, he's got a presentation for us to show us about the rebrand. The CEO came up and he introduced me, talked about our process, and he pre-framed it really well. He made sure to say that, you know, we went through a thorough process of discovery and strategy, and came up with a logo that the team felt really good about, and we wanted to present that to the board. And so I went up and I did my presentation. There was dead silence, and there was a couple of questions from people that were on the board, and I answered them, and after like another round of dead silence, the CEO said, okay, thank you, Sean, so much. We'll get back to you. And I thought that was the weirdest thing. What happened? Everybody before this was like super excited. Everybody was happy about it. And I didn't really get a lot of feedback. And so you got that kind of anxiety of like, did they like it? Did they hate it? You know, are we going to have to try to start this process all over again? Are we going to have to go into another round? And so I left just kind of thinking these things. You know, it's like, you know, at the end of the day, the CEO has to make the decision, and I'm really confident that the logo that we landed on was the right decision based off of the group collectively coming up with it. And so I just let it be. And I think it was that night the CEO he emailed back and he said, "Hey, they're a tough crowd to read, but everybody really appreciated and enjoyed your presentation. It was an extremely easy decision to make. We got approval on it. The board's happy." And so I was like, oh, okay, yes, this is a sigh of relief. And so now it's time to wrap up the project and deliver it. And so by wrapping up the project, that means finalizing all the logo file formats, so to make sure that we have all the different variations of the logo in all the different formats that they need. So vector, pixel-based format, web formatting, print formatting. We also create a brand style guide so that if they have anything else created, that they're in line with the brand. And so the brand style guide includes not only their logo and the variations, but also the color palette that's appropriate for their brand, the typography, the fonts that we're using, some different design elements. And also for the Fresno Rescue Mission, we designed a round of sub-brands. And so for the icon that we landed on, it has the ability to cut into it different icons that speak to the individual services. And so we are wrapping all of that up and putting it into a brand style guide, as well as stationery material, which is letterhead, envelope, and business card. And that is it. That's the entire brand identity system handed over. They have the brand identity system as well as a brand strategy, and that brand strategy doubles as a capabilities deck and a proposal, because if we are going to be designing their website, we already kind of have the foundation, the framework laid for that. And if we're going to be doing ongoing services for them, we have the marketing strategy laid out as well. And so that is the entire process. The whole timeline was about 3.5 to 4 weeks that this all happened in. So about 4 weeks, about 1 month, you can do a complete brand strategy and brand identity system, deliver it to the client. Guys, I did this video for you because you guys kept asking me to go deeper. You want to see more behind the scenes. I think I've given you everything. If I haven't, please let me know in the comments below. But at the end of the day, I think that you guys should just do it. Don't overthink it, because if you're thinking, well, what about this? What about that? The very first time I did strategy or this whole process like this was the very first time I did it, right? I've never had any point of reference. So if this is new to you, this whole process, I think the most important thing to do is to just get started where you are with what you know. And so again, if you have any questions, let me know in the comments and I'll make sure to answer anything you guys have.